Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from different parts of the world. We kickstarted our MBA Spotlight series yesterday, and we have some really exciting sessions planned for you over the week. Today would be the last day for this week. However, we will start again on Monday. So look out for the sessions. We have admission directors from few of the top schools, current students for the student panels, and admission consultants for live profile evaluation planned for you. So without further ado, let's start off today with our first session on how to create a successful application. Please join me in welcoming Eleanor from HEC Paris. Over to you, Eleanor.
Hi everyone, I'm Eleanor. I'm recruitment manager at HEC Paris. So my job in a nutshell is to guide you throughout the application process. And today we're going to focus on the application process at HEC Paris. So we'll start this presentation with a general overview about HEC Paris, and then we'll talk a bit more about the application process, and I'll give you some tips and best practices. So just a few words about HEC Paris. So as you can see on this slide, we offer a wide range of programs at HEC. Today, we're going to focus on the master's program. They are pre-experience program for students geared towards 0 and 3 years of work experience. If you have more than 3 years of work experience, in this case, an MBA program can be a better fit for you. And if you have even more work experience, more than 10 years, I would say, in this case, an executive program can be a better fit for you. We have also offered non-degree programs like the PhD that are much more designed for research, and summer school programs that are programs during the summer, more a shorter program that can be a good test for you before committing to a master program at HEC. Also, please note that our programs are geared towards students who already hold a bachelor or licence. Well, I'm not going to get too much into the rankings because, well, I think that they speak from themselves, but you can see that we were ranked first by the Financial Times, the first business school in Europe, but I'll let you explore the Financial Times website and rankings if you'd like to know more about them. If you have a look at the pattern figure just below, you can see that we have 4,500 students enrolled in our degree program. So it means all the programs that you see on the previous slide. And it's a very international environment as we have 105 different nationalities represented on the campus. There's also the fact and the figures that we have 60,000 and plus alumni students all over the world. That is quite interesting, I think. It shows you that this alumni network is an incredible support for you from the day you're going to step a foot at HEC Paris and for all your career. You can really count on them. If we now have a look at our teaching philosophy, there's 3, I would say, main elements that set HEC apart from other business schools. The first one is our high-quality standard, as we try to maximize the class hours and minimize the class sizes. You will never be more than 50 students per classes. And our courses are always taught by main instructor. We don't have any assistant teachers. 50% of them are research faculty and 50% of them are practitioners. And it's also my second point, is that we try to have a perfect balance between theory and practice. So we will give you the theoretical foundation that you need, but also the practical approach. So it's kind of a learning by doing approach to transfer smoothly into your professional life. It means that you will be doing a lot of company projects, real-life case studies, also consulting projects, and yes, get involved in a lot of issues from different kind of companies throughout your academic year at HEC Paris. And finally, we try to develop as much as we can an inspiring environment. So we have, for instance, a personal development program that was launched thanks to the huge amount of money given by one of our alumni students. And we also organize quite a lot of networking events thanks to the incredible work of our career services. So we organize a lot of fairs. We organize also cocktails with alumni. We organize also conferences and all kind of stuff that is also quite important for your career placement. And finally, we have a strong campus social life, as we have a lot of association on the campus that you can get involved in, and they're also a great asset because you must keep in mind that your schoolmates might be your business partner tomorrow. We're just going to have a look at our master program portfolio. So our flagship program is the Master in Management. It's a 2-year program. The first year is the generalist phase, and the second year is a specialization phase. During the second year, you can choose one of our specializations that we have at HEC Paris, or you can choose to go abroad and to do a double degree or to be part of the SEMS network in one of our SEMS partner university. The second kind of program that we have are the double degrees. In this case, you will do 1 year at HEC Paris and 1 year in the partner university. And at the end, you will have a degree from HEC Paris and a degree from the partner university. We have more than 20 different double degrees. You can check them on the website. So here are some examples. And please also know that you will have a specialization if you choose a double degree. So for instance, you can get specialized in public affairs, you can get specialized in innovation management, and many others. And finally, if you're looking for 1 year and more focused program, I can recommend an MSc program. So in this case, you will get specialized in something like finance, sustainability and social innovation, strategic management, entrepreneurship, and many others. Please note that all those programs are taught in English except the MAC and DMI, so Média, Art, Création, and Droit and Management International. Yeah, those are the only 2 programs taught in French. Well, we're now going to talk a bit more about the subject of today, which is the application process. So first, some few information about the process, and then we will dive into the tips and best practices. So first, the first thing that you need to know about the application process at HEC Paris is that we have a holistic approach when reviewing application, which means that what is going to be important for us is the well combination between your academic excellence, a competitive GMAT or GRE score, your international sensitivity exposure, your work experiences, including internship or extracurricular activities, and your strong motivation. It means that, for example, if your GPA is a bit lower than what you can expect, it can totally be offset by a strong or competitive GMAT score. It's kind of the same for the internship work experience. If you have if you did a lot of internship, or if you get involved in a lot of different associations, but you didn't have the opportunity to go abroad, it's totally fine, and vice versa. If we now have a closer look at the application process, the first step is to upload your documents and submit your applications according to one of the application deadlines that we have. I'm going to show you in the next slide the different deadlines. For this first step, the supporting documents that are required are your degree certificates, your transcripts, a one-page CV, a management test score that can be the GMAT, GRE, or TAJMAJ, an English language proficiency exam. It can be the IELTS, the TOEFL, the TOEIC, or the Cambridge, and 2 online letters of recommendation. One at least has to be academic, and the other one can be either academic or professional. You will also have essay questions to complete, but I'll touch on a bit later in the presentation. Once you submitted your application, you'll have the admissibility results. It's the moment when you're going to know whether you're going to have an interview with the team or not. Then you will have the interview, and then you will have the final admission results. So in order to apply, you need to stick to one of those application deadlines. So it means that for the moment, we're currently in the third round, for example, it means that you need to submit your application no later than March the 3rd. Then you'll have the admissibility results no later than March 25th, and the final admission results no later than by the end of April for this round. And we have 4 different application rounds, so you will still have 1 round left after this one. Please note that this application process is not on a rolling basis, which means that if you submit your application now, it will only be reviewed by our team by March the 3rd, and we'll only have the admissibility results by March 25th. My best advice will be also to start your application as of now and submit it when you're ready, because if you're not ready at the end of a round, it will carry over to the next round. And also apply when your application is the strongest. It's true that at each passing round, the number of seats in the program decrease, but really we will have seats and spots at each round, so really apply when your application is the strongest. Sometimes it's better, for example, to wait for a better management test score than applying too quickly to the program. Well, I'm now going to share some tips and best practices with you about the application process. The first tips are about the CV. We recommend you to have a one-page CV, so try to make it concise and to make it impactful. And we recommend the following structure. Start with the education, mentioning your major courses and your GPA. Then you can continue with your professional experiences, including internship, volunteer experiences. Then, if it's applicable to you, you can add awards like scholarship, academic, sports, or any kind of awards, and finish with the extra activities. For example, if you get involved in clubs, associations, sport activities, it's quite important for us this extra part of the CV because we're also going to look at them, and it's also a great way for you to develop soft skills that might be important for HEC Paris and to make your application stand out in comparison with the other application. And you can finish also talking about your interests and your IT and languages skills. I mentioned previously the essay question that are part of the application process. So for the essay question, you will have several essay questions, and the questions vary from a program to another, and they can also change from a year to another. But you can see on this slide example of essay question that you can have in the application portal. So there are many questions around motivation, around understanding who you are, around also to see how you see the world around you. So I would say that the aim of those questions for us is really to know you better and also to see the consistency of your application. I know that the management test is a huge point for most of you. So please note that the management test is mandatory for most of our program, except the sustainability and the entrepreneur one, but they are the only one who don't require this management test. And we accept 3 tests. We accept the GMAT, the GRE, and the TAJMAJ that we consider valid for 5 years. There's no waivers because it's important for us and it's a way to be fair with all applicants. And you can apply with the unofficial score. For example, if you take the test quite close from the deadline, it's totally fine to apply with the unofficial one and send us the official one once you have it on our email address. And we also accept, due to the current situation, the online test. For some of them, for example, for the GMAT, you don't have the writing section in the online version of the test. It's totally fine. In this case, you can put 0 in this section and send it the score. For the English test, we also accept the online version of the test, and I previously mentioned that we accept the Cambridge, the TOEFL, the TOEIC, and the IELTS. We consider the test to be valid for 5 years. I know that's most of the time on your test it's written that it's valid only for 2 years, but for us it will be 5 years, which means that if, for example, if you took the test in like 2017, it's still fine for us. We don't require a minimum score. It was the same for the management test score, as we have this holistic approach and as we consider that one weaker element of your application can be offset by a stronger one. The English test can be waived in only 2 cases. If you're an English native, in this case, you will need to upload your passport as a proof on your application portal. And if you have earned a degree from an institution in which all the instruction, but really all the instruction, were taught in English. In this case, you have also to upload a proof. It can be a transcript, certificate, or a complement, for instance. We also, require a 2 letter of recommendation on the application portal. So as I mentioned previously, we ask at least for 1 academic, and the other one can be either academic or professional. I would say that a good letter of recommendation is a letter that is written by somebody who knows you well. I mean that, for example, if you were in a company, there's no need to ask a letter to the top associate, senior associate. It's much more better to ask it to the manager you were working with because you know you better and he knows you well. We recommend you also to ask the referee to highlight your skills in this letter and to give some example. And we recommend a 1-page letter. You have 2 ways to upload it on your application portal. If you already hold the letter, you can directly upload it on your application portal. And if you don't hold the letter, in this case, you can fill a contact form with your reference contact, and then your referees will receive an email with a link and with a reference form to complete. So it's totally equal for us. The other tips is, we already talked about it, start your application now and to make it when it's ready, and also to gather as much information as you can about the programs you want to apply to. So for instance, you can download the brochure, you can chat with our students via the Eligibility platform that is accessible thanks to our website. You can also read the facts section of the program that we have on the website. It answers a lot of questions about the application process. And we're also organizing an open day on the 6th of March. It will be online, so it's also a really great opportunity to have a presentation of all the program and to gather all the information that you need to submit successfully your application to HEC Paris. Well, hopefully, once your application is done, hopefully you will have a positive admissibility result. You will then need to prepare the interview. So here are just some tips for the interview. And all those tips are mainly for the online interviews, as they are currently held online due to the current situation. And we hold the interview on Zoom. So you need to have the Zoom link ready. For all the other tips, it's kind of the same as an in-person interview, which means that you have to be in the same, I would say, mindset, condition, dress like you mean business, choose an appropriate environment, be on time, and the time that we will be giving, that we will give you will be at Paris time. And also check your headphones, double check your sound settings and everything so that you don't have any technical problem during the interview. Once again, do your homework. So gather as much information as you can about the programs, about everything that you need to know before the interview. We will also suggest you to have a mock interview with our current students, our student ambassadors. So don't worry too much as of now for the interview, because we will be guiding you to succeed also for it. And it's an interview that lasts for about 25 minutes with 2 jury members. One most of the time is somebody from the academic team, and the other person can be somebody from the someone from the admission team, or it can be an alumni student. And it's mainly motivation interview, which means that we're going to ask you a question about internship, about you, about parenting skills and your career goals. So be yourself. I would say that it's the best advice that I can give you for this interview. And the aim is really not to trick you at any point. For some program, the more finance program or a program about data, you can have some technical question, but really, I would say that the main aim of this interview is to be sure that this program will be a good fit for us and for you. So be yourself. Well, it's kind of the end of this little presentation about tips and best practices and how to create a successful application. After this presentation, should you have any question, don't hesitate to email me at admissionsmasters@hec.fr. My colleague and me will be happy to answer you and to guide you throughout the application process. Of course, you can also chat with our students on Univedi and well, have a look at our webpage.
That was a really insightful presentation. So moving on to the questions. A lot of people think that, there's an ideal candidate for each school. So would you say that there is an ideal candidate? And if yes, how does an ideal candidate look like for HEC?
Well, I would say that there's no ideal candidate because it's also what we are looking at. We're looking at diversity in terms of nationality, in terms of background, and what is important is that you stand out of other candidates. So the application process, of course, is selective, and we look for quality competitive candidates. But we are always impressed by the quality of the profile applying to the program. And I would say that your soft skills, like for example, collaborative spirit, leadership spirits, can really make the difference. And you need to highlight them in your CV and, for instance, in the essay questions. So your soft skills, if you're an excellent, well, can make the difference between two very good profiles with the same academic background and with the same kind of work experience, for instance.
Right, that's great. So moving on to a very important question about GMAT. So what do you think? Does multiple attempts in GMAT impact the selection criteria at HEC?
Well, it's up to you. As soon as you don't submit your application, you can have several tries with the GMAT, and that's why also we recommend to apply when your application is the strongest. What I can recommend you is really to apply when you think that you have the best score that you can reach at the test. I didn't give a minimum score, but to let you know, maybe the average score of the admitted student can be a good information for you. For the GMAT, it's 710, and for the GRE, it's 325. So you can try to target this score and to apply when you have the strongest score that you can reach.
Right. So a lot of applicants have this question. How can one address a weakness in their application? What would you suggest?
This is a good question because there's some elements in your application that you can change. For instance, your GPA, you can change your GPA. So you need to try to concentrate on the other elements. Like, for example, if your GPA is a bit low, in this case, it's really the management test score that can counterbalance with the GPA. If you don't have any international exposure, in this case, work experience and be getting involved in association is also what can really make the difference. So I would say that for some profile, having an additional work experience can be a real way to try to address your weaknesses. But once again, you can't change who you are just before the beginning of the application process.
Right. So we have a really interesting question from Rebecca, and she asks, how can we substitute having no international exposure? Will a startup involvement for almost 2 years be enough to substitute it?
It can be a good substitute, but once again, and it's kind of the same for the work experience, it really depends on what you do during this during your experience, and you have really to highlight your responsibilities and your achievements. It's really what is going to make the difference. So no problem, and it's not a problem not to have any international exposure, because we know that in some countries you don't have the opportunity to do a exchange program, for instance, or it's much more difficult to go abroad than in other countries. So it's totally fine as soon as you prove to us that you do other outstanding things besides that.
Great. So our next question is from Shashank Kumar. What factors constitute the academic excellence factor?
Yeah, it's a good question. In the academic excellence, we will be taking into account the school you come from, because we know that in some schools it's much more harder than in other school, and according also to the major courses that you have to achieve a good GPA. So it will be taken into account by our admission team. We will also be taken into account your GPA, and yeah, that's mainly what we're taking into account. And of course, for more, for example, for the finance programs or for the data program, once again, the quantitative skills would be quite important. So we will also have a look at your quantitative courses, the BGPA that you have in the quantitative courses, for instance.
Right. So this is a question that you've already answered, but I think just for the sake of clarity, is the English language proficiency mandatory? And what about the students who've graduated from schools that exclusively teach in English?
Well, I would say that the general rule is that it's mandatory unless you're English native. So in this case, you need to upload your passport, or if you have all your instruction conducted in English. So it means 100% of the courses in your previous degrees in English. In this case, you also need to have a certificate from your school, or for instance, for some of you, it's written on the transcript, so you can upload this as a proof.
Right, and this is one of the most common questions about which round to apply in. So what do you think is the most ideal round, if there is one?
Well, I think that there's no ideal round, because it depends also of the candidate pools, which means that we don't know in advance which round is going to be the most competitive round. But it's true that at each passing round, the number of spots in the program decrease. So that's why we used to say that you need to apply when your application is the strongest, because for our top candidates, we will always have a spot available.
Right. And this is another question regarding the application. So I had gaps during my bachelor's degree and switched universities due to valid reasons. How would that affect my application?
Well, if you had valid reasons for having gaps in your CV and having gaps with your bachelor degree, it can be totally fine. Once again, don't hesitate. If you'd like to send your CV for a CV review to us, you can do it, and we will be happy to have a look at it and to check with you your eligibility for the program. So I won't say it will affect your application, because it will depend what you did during those gaps and how you explain it. But of course, we can understand any kind of situation as soon as you have a good reason for it.
Right. So following that up, does HEC evaluate profile? Can one send it to your AdCom?
Yeah, Of course, we'll be happy to do a CV review with you and to check your eligibility for the program. So don't hesitate to send us your CV on our address.
That's great. So Sophia has a question. What if the applicant doesn't have any work ex? How would you evaluate that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that for the master in management, in any case, it's not a prerequisite, it's not mandatory. As soon as you did other things like, as we mentioned it previously, being involved in association, being an athlete, for example, or working in kind of fields that are not really work experience, so it's totally fine. For the MSc programs, which are the one-year program, in this case, it's true that having a work experience is a real plus because after the program, you will go quite quickly into the professional life. So it's always better to have work experience related to the program you want to apply to before applying.
Okay, I think a follow-up question for the English waiver. So what are the documents that should be submitted as a proof for English test waiver?
Well, if you're native, it will be your passport or your ID, for instance. And if you're if it's because all your courses were in English during your previous degree, in this case, well, for most of you, it's written on your transcripts or complements. So upload this document where it's written. And if it's not written, I think the best way is to ask your school certificate that all your courses were in English. So it can be this kind of document.
Right. So Naman has a question. What matters more? Is it the name of the company for which we have worked for or the progress we have made, like promotions or achievements at a company?
This is a really good question. I would say that it's a bit of both. The name of the company can be quite important for to show us that you have that the company identified your skills and that you were able to work in like a great consulting or finance company, for instance. But it depends on the program. Like for example, for the sustainability and social innovation program, it can be great to have the name of a company and dealing with sustainable issues, or a startup in sustainable issues can be also a great work experience previous to the program. So I would say that it counts, but also the responsibility that you will have in this society is going to be important. For instance, if you work in a big, I don't know, consulting firms, but you don't do that much and you don't achieve anything, it won't be really interesting. So it's, once again, a well-balanced and a good mix of both the responsibilities and the company you will be working in that need to be consistent with the program you want to apply to.
Definitely, that makes total sense. So Pujita has a question regarding the letter of recommendation. Is it okay to give 2 professional referees?
Well, we used to say that 1 academic at least is required. If it's really, really not possible for any kind of reason, we may accept 2 professional references. But in this case, please write us an email to explain why it's not possible for you to have an academic one, because we really prefer to have at least 1 academic.
Right, great. So the next question is regarding the social sector background. So will a background in social sector act as a hindrance in the application process?
Yeah, it can be. I'm not quite sure to completely understand the question.
Okay,
but
I think so that means that if you've had a career in social sector, maybe work in the NGOs, will that be a hindrance in the application or will it be a plus point?
Yeah, it will be. It can be quite really interesting as we welcome students from very different backgrounds. And once again, I think it will depend on the program. Maybe it won't be the best background to apply to a finance program, but why not? I would say. So it really depends on the program. Just keep in mind, because when I saw this question, it just I was just thinking that maybe you have more than quite a lot of work experience. Just keep in mind that you need to have less than 3 years of work experience to apply. So yeah. But yes, of course, we're open to all kind of background in terms of professional experience and in terms of academic background.
Right. So I'm just going through all the questions. Great. So we have a question regarding GMAT and GRE. So how does HEC compare the scores, GRE and GMAT? And does HEC care about AWA score in GRE or GMAT?
A good question. Well, for us, we equally value GMAT and GRE, so it's totally fine. You can choose the one that you prefer, I would say, or that one that is possible to take in your country. Regarding the hour, I think that I understand the question. It's because in the online GMAT version of the test, you don't have this section, so we know it. So it's why we don't we don't look that much at this section, to be fair with the student who take the online and the in-person version. So we are not going to care too much about this section of the test, and we're going to give more attention to the quantitative section of the test.
Right. So again, a question regarding their work background. If they have an engineer degree and work experience in a tech company, will that act as a hindrance?
Yeah, it can be great. Once again, depending on the program, and sometimes I'm just answering yes because, well, it's totally fine, but it also depends on what you really do, and it can be great also to have a look at your CV, for instance. But I would say that yes, we do welcome a lot of students from engineering background because it's quite an interesting background, especially for the quantitative programs. So yeah, it can be totally fine.
Right. I think I'm seeing a few of the questions which are regarding profile evaluation. So you could attend one of our profile evaluation sessions or directly send it to their adcom at HEC, and they will be more than happy to help you with that. So there's an interesting question about a gap year. So the optional gap year at MIM, do you help students find internships, and what is the possibility of doing these internships in France if they're coming from the US?
Yes, well, just to do a little recap about the structure of the master's management. So it's, yes, a 2-year program. So the first year is a generalist phase, and the second year is a specialization phase. And you can indeed take a gap year in between the first and the second year. During this gap year, most of the time, students choose to do internships to enhance their professional experience. So most of them do 2 internships of 6 months. But also, if you have a valuable project like launching a startup or any kind of other valuable project, you can also be totally fine for this gap year. HEC won't find for you the internship because the aim of this gap year is really for you to find the best opportunity for you and to enhance your CV. But you will have different kind of resources that are accessible. You will have the support from our career services. They organize fairs. They organize also workshop. They can do mock interview with you, work on your CV. So they're great support to find those internships. And also you will have the support from companies as you will have strong connection with them throughout the academic year and throughout the first year of the Master in Management, thanks to projects and conferences and things like that that you're going to attend with them. And the last resources will be the alumni network, and I think it's the maybe most important resources that you can count on, especially if you want to do an internship in the US. You can really get in contact with them, and they will be happy to help you. We also have chapters in big cities in every country. So you can also contact our chapters that regroup all our alumni students to help you find an internship. So a lot of resources for you to help you with your research and to be sure that you'll find the best opportunity for you.
That's great. So this question is regarding the academic rigor. Will a high GMAT score be sufficient to compensate for a low GPA, around say 2.2, or just weak academic credentials?
It's quite a tough question because it will not only allow you to, it's not only the GPA is not only on, you will need to compensate with your GMAT, but maybe also with your experience or your overall profile. To be honest, a low GPA can be a weakness to apply to HEC Paris, but once again, it really depends on your overall application and not only on your GMAT score.
Right. So again, a follow-up question regarding GMAT. Would a slightly skewed GMAT score, like better verbal but lower quant, be a deterrent? They're giving an example of 44 in verbal and 41 in quants.
I would say that it's always better to have a better quantitative score because in most of our program, even for instance the marketing one or the sustainability one, we ask for quantitative skills because we remain a business school. So I'd say that try your best with the quantitative section, and unfortunately, this one will count a bit more than the other one.
Right. So the next question is about the whole COVID scenario and how is HEC ensuring the same experience in these years?
Yes, about, for example, the number of applications and things like that. The question is how it
Right.
impacts the application process.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Well, I would say that the admission process on the overall remain the same. The only difference is that we accept the online version of the test and that the interviews are held online. So it's the only difference for us. And regarding the number of applications for the moment, but I have the question yesterday, so I have a closer look at it before this session. During the first round, it doesn't impact that much. We have the same number of applicants, and during the second session, we have more applicants. And we think that because students also feel confident about continuing studying before a career placement, and that they feel quite confident about the career placement at HEC Paris after graduation. So it's maybe how we can explain it for the second round. But yes, indeed, it don't affect that much the application process for the moment.
Great. So I have a few questions regarding the number of years of experience. And this is one: if people with 2.5 years of work ex can apply for the MIM program.
Well, you need to have less than 3 years of work experience by the time you start the program. So it means more or less less than 2 years at the moment you apply, because you apply more or less 1 year before the start of the program. So it's, I would say, the general rule that we have. To be honest, if you have 2.5 years of work experience before the MIM, the aim of the MIM is really to give you a strong business foundation, and then to get specialized in something. It might not be the best choice or the best fit for you, but once again, it depends on your overall application and on your overall experience. So you can send us your CV to check your eligibility. I would say that if you graduated if you graduated in 2017 or before, you won't be eligible for a master's program. So it's mainly the year of graduation who will be important for us. And at the moment, we will be looking at the application of students with graduated in 2018 and more.
Right, great. So Pujita has a question. If one needs to choose their specialization before they enroll into the program, or is it after the first year?
Yeah, I think that you mean for the Master in Management. So for the Master in Management, you need to choose the specialization during the second semester of the first year. So no need for the moment to choose it. You will have plenty of presentation during the first semester of the first year to choose the specialization that will be the best for you, or if you'd like to do double degree, for instance. So no, for the moment, you will have plenty of time to explore all kind of specialization.
Great. So this question is regarding the placement. If one does not know the local language, would that be a hindrance?
Yeah, good question. I would say that for most of the countries, as soon as you speak English, you will be able to find a job. It's the case, like, for example, in Western Europe, in Germany, in Belgium, in the UK, and in other countries. In France, to be totally honest, it's always preferable to speak a bit of French for the integration. And even if you can work in a multinational or international company, French is really preferable for the recruiters. We know that for most of you, you don't speak French when you arrive at HEC Paris, so that's why we also propose some intensive courses in French, or you can take free courses throughout the academic year. If you would like to, and if you want to stay in France for your internship or for your career placements.
Right, great. So, are there any recommended math courses that candidates can take in order to bolster the quantitative aspects of the application?
Well, I think that there's no specific recommended courses because it can be in math, but there's also other quantitative subjects that you can study. So no, we don't recommend any kind of courses. It's really your overall academic background that is going to be important in addition with the GMAT score.
Right. I think this is a really interesting question. How can one stand out in the overrepresented applicant pool apart from exceptional GMAT?
Yeah, indeed, it's really a good question. Yes, well, you need to keep in mind that it's what will make you stand out is the fact that you're unique and that you're a unique profile. So I would say that the profile that will stand out are the one who have the higher combination of academic excellence, work experience, international exposure, and GMAT and motivation. And that also your soft skills are really going to make the difference. So we were talking about leadership, for example. We're talking about having a collaborative spirit, being able to deal with diversity. So it's really what is going to make also the difference and make your profile stand out. So you need to highlight it in your profile. When you apply to HEC Paris, you need also to highlight it in the essay questions, and then you will be able also to do it in the interview phase. Yeah. So that's really what made the difference, I would say.
Right. So, can an applicant apply to both MIM and MIF programs? I think they mean in the same cycle.
Yeah, you can apply to two programs. In this case, you need to do only one application and to prioritize your choices. Because if your application, if you're admitted in your first choice, your application for the second one won't be reviewed. And if you're not admitted in your first choice, your application for the second one will be reviewed in the next application round. So yes, it's totally possible. It's a maximum of two choices, and you need in this case to do only one application and to prioritize your choices.
Right, great. I think we're almost nearing the end of our time. So last question. Could you describe some of the big student events that happen at HEC?
Oh yes, this is a great question. Well, several kind of events. We have cocktails, we have conferences or professional events, I would say. We have fairs that are organized by the Career Center, and we also have events organized by the Student Association. So there are so many events, it's quite hard to choose only one because in the Student Association, they're doing lots. For example, we have like the German Society with doing conferences or meeting with ministers in country or economists or things like that. So it can be great. It can be cultural kind of events. I would say that the biggest event for the professional part is the Carrefour Fair. Carrefour means cross points. It's a fair in January. I think it was 2 weeks ago, where more than 200 companies are represented, any kind of companies of any fields. And the aim of this fair is really to recruit students for the after graduation. So it's a big event and it's a big meeting for all the students that is quite important for them in the academic year. I think it's the most important one that we have, but we also have fairs dedicated to, for instance, consulting, finance, and to different kind of sectors. So that's for the professional aspects. But for the associated one, there's so many. You can have a look also at the website on the association guide if you like to see more kind of events that they organize.
Great. So thank you so much, Eleanor, for being so patient with all the questions. We've put the webpage where you can go and visit HEC's website and get more information. We've tried to answer almost all the questions. If you still have some burning questions, please don't hesitate to contact the AdCom of HEC. And that brings us to the end of this session. Please don't forget to register for all the upcoming sessions. Our next session starts in a few minutes, so see you all there.
Yes, thank you to everyone for attending this session, and we're hopefully looking forward to your question and you're looking forward to your application at HEC Paris. Have a wonderful event. Bye-bye.
Bye.